What's going on YouTube? This is Dumb Orange 927 back again for another video. And here today, guys, I am going to be discussing basically Destiny 2, as it's one of the brand new lineups of the games coming out this year. And I just want to discuss my thoughts about the game, what I think it's going to be like, and overall how good I think the game actually will be, as I know many people have either a non-stop excitement or concern about the game. So I just want to convey my thoughts and what I think the game, how the game will do, and where it both surpasses my expectations but also still comes up short. So today I'm going to be discussing that. Well, the first thing I can say the game improves on right away is graphically. It's not like a huge advancement over the original, like you really could confuse it with the original, but I love the improvements they make to the art style mostly, and how it makes Destiny look even more unique from another shooter, and I think it's really good of how interesting their art style is. Like when they introduced these new things, like when I heard they were going to bring a chain gun in the game, I was like, oh gosh, they're just gonna make it look generic as heck. But no, it actually has a very interesting design to it, and a lot of other things do have an interesting design. So I think art style wise it's improved. The next thing I'm pleased about is that I am glad that they're simplifying the story. Destiny 1 suffered a lot because it's like everything in there was like all these subplots, all this dumb stuff where we didn't even know what was going on, so it's just being downright confusing. And luckily they've managed to simplify on Destiny 2. Basically it's about this Cabal warlord who basically invades the city, conquers the city, has the Traveler under his control, and basically humanity now, or just, you know, the Guardians are now in hiding. They're stuck on Earth in hiding, and they have to work their way to unlock new powers and rebuild everything they lost in order to take back the city. At least that's as far as I know. I also think it's kind of nice that they're adding more diversity to some aspects of the gameplay, mostly with its weapon sandbox, which I think is great. And also, I guess, like new levels and all that, new content and whatnot. That's pretty cool. Now, where are my problems? If you guys are Destiny fanboys, I'm just gonna say leave now if you're unwilling to listen, because you are going to witness an incoming rant. This game makes almost zero changes from the original. Like if you like the original gameplay and stuff, that's fine, and I even enjoyed it. Like the gameplay in it of itself isn't bad. The problem is that the game suffered a lot of repetition. There wasn't much to it. It's like half the game, after beating the levels and all that, was just grinding, and I don't see anything in this game that's really going to say that this kind of junk, this kind of cheap bull crap, especially with like the RNGs, the DLCs and all that, we have no confirmation if this stuff is or isn't going to happen again. And I have to assume it is going to happen again, unless if they say otherwise. Like the reason I praise Battlefront 2, despite me not liking the first one that much, is that it's shown us that it's making a lot of changes. It's shown us that it's improving in pretty much every area. And not only that, but you know, the whole divide the community thing, which was a big problem in the first one. Well, guess what? All DLC is now free of charge. And yes, I know that some companies and stuff can just post content later and stuff, and I understand that pretty much all the content that's going to come post launch is stuff that we still managed to get in Battlefront 2 and all that, like Kashyyyk, for example, and stuff. But this is under the new EA like graphics treatment, and not only that, but at launch, the game is like 3 times the content of the original, plus all this content you're getting for free. Like, it's just a win-win for me. However, this game doesn't really show much that's different. It's like, honestly, like, my friend kind of made it clear that if he wasn't shown that this was Destiny 2 footage, it would literally just look like another Destiny 1 DLC, and I can't help but agree with him. Like, Destiny as a whole, it's fine, it's just there's nothing this game is doing that's making any big leaps from the first. And that's why I don't get it when people say, oh my gosh, Destiny 2 is going to be one of the coolest games ever made and stuff. I'm like, it's really just the first one, just with some minor improvements. And I'm not saying that it has to completely reinvent itself. You know, I understand the motto, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And for the gameplay and the art style, that's fine. But for stuff like levels and the story, like, just because I said the story wasn't, like, confusing anymore, doesn't mean it's, like, great. It's not like I really see anything in there preview-wise that makes me go, oh my gosh, I have to do this story. It's just like, I'm just not going through a severe pain with it anymore, which, you know, my point behind the fact of Destiny is I'm fascinated by its world, and I really wish it did more with it. Like, honestly, with Destiny, the world constructed is probably one of the most interesting worlds I have seen since, like, Star Wars and Halo. And in terms of the level of possibility of what its universe could forge, it even surpasses Halo in the level of possibility. Like Halo, you're still restricted by some of the realisticness of its military gritty design. Like, you know, you can't do, like, time travel in Halo. That's, like, a little bit, that just doesn't really fit well together. But stuff like Destiny, you can do stuff like that. You can create interdimensional stuff. You can forge these fantasy-like things, because Destiny is somewhat of a fantasy game. And it's really kind of neat that they had that in the world, but the stories themselves don't take much advantage of that. They don't really do much to reinforce the game's story. There's nothing I care about in the game, and that's the problem. I don't really have a reason to care about any character. I don't have a reason to implement stuff. And, like, yes, people can use the excuse, well, it's an MMO, you are the character stuff, they can't do NPC characters. Bullcrap. Bullcrap. You want a game where you forged your own character? I'll give you a hint. It's called Halo Reach. And yes, Halo Reach was still a linear story, but don't forget, and while Noble 6 was a fixed character himself, you could forge him whatever you wanted him to be like, with armor, customization. Heck, as far as I know, even the voice you could alter. And, you know, that's not the kind of treatment you can. And yet that game was still able to forge characters that I pretty much for the most part cared about. Like, was it as good as, like, the original Halo trilogy characters? No. But they were still characters I cared about. I related to Carter and his attempts to, you know, just keep the team together. I related to George, where he would sacrifice so much to protect his home. And it was so good. It was great. And then you come with this Destiny where it's like, pretty much, the game didn't really have any depth behind it. Like, it set up this cool world and all that. And honestly, when I also think about it, it's kind of made clear, and even the fans of Destiny know this and have even stated it to me, Destiny 2 really isn't really a sequel to, say, it's almost more of just a Destiny 1 do-over. And I can't help but agree with it. Like, now people could argue, yes, Battlefront 2 is just in a way a Battlefront 1 do-over. And the amount of gameplay changes it made and all that, is that somewhat true? Maybe, but Battlefront 2 at least doesn't just change things, they expand. And more importantly, the alternatives they made, they weren't what we were asking for. They were stuff that was clever design. Like, if Battlefront 2 just launched and played exactly like Battlefield, or the original Battlefront exactly like it, then yeah, I would say it's a Battlefront 1 do-over. But it did changes that were pretty good. They were pretty nice. Like, would I still prefer the original as the alternative? Probably, but, you know, still good. But that's where this game has sort of a problem. It's like, it's enjoyable to see that they're making improvements, but it's like there's nothing new. There's nothing new that's literally gonna make the game like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be the coolest game ever. It isn't. There is still no player trade, no in-game economy, no like long-term player quest or faction wars, because that is what I felt the first game introduced as a concept, but it got dropped at the last second. I thought that was really cool, the idea of joining a faction and having it where basically in the multiplayer set the Crucible, it would just be a faction war, and you would automatically align yourself with teammates that were in your faction, with the only exceptions being when you were playing with a friend of yours from a different faction. Like, I thought that was a great idea, and honestly it kind of fell on its face. Like, it didn't really go through with it, and that's what angers me. It's like, Destiny 2, yes, it's an improved game from the original, but it does nothing to go above and beyond. It's like, pretty much the game is just Destiny 1, except with, well, I guess a bit more stuff, I guess. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this as a hater of Destiny by gameplay or how fun it can be. I have fun with Destiny's gameplay. That has never been my problem. My problem has been with the design of the progression, the design of its DLC bullcrap, which, again, we don't know if they're doing it again. And, you know, I can't just give the benefit of the doubt. We gave Destiny 1 the benefit of the doubt, and look where that gave us. And look, whether or not people love or hate the game, if you love Destiny 1, that's fine, but you need to at least acknowledge, even if not publicly, at least to yourself, Destiny 1 didn't have anything that was like above and beyond. It didn't. Alright, it was a cool concept mixing the MMO with shooter, but it's like you can't rely on that as a novelty. You still have to design it really good, otherwise it doesn't work. And that's the problem. Destiny was great as a shooter, but it was terrible as an MMO shooter. And the problem with Destiny, and I think they're still going through this problem, it doesn't know what it wants to be. You know, it doesn't know if it wants to be, you know, it doesn't know if it wants to be just a shooter. It doesn't know if it wants to be a high-tech MMO or deep storytelling. It doesn't know. Because, like I said, shooting's fun. Like, but it's nothing that other shooters can't do, and it's nothing that gameplay-wise was that innovative. Like, Titanfall knew what it wanted to be. Titanfall knew it wanted to be a really awesome shooter, in the sense that it innovated gaming with its new mechanics. You know, Halo knew it wanted to be a game focused around fun gameplay and some good storytelling, mostly. And heck, even the Call of Duty games know what they want to be, in the sense that, do I agree what it is? No. But even the later CODs know it just wants to be a silly futuristic game. And that's what I'm saying. These games, despite me not liking all of them, they at least knew what they wanted to be. Destiny, I don't think, knows what it wants to be yet. Even Battlefront does a better job within having a focus. Like, yes, I get mad of how casual all the modes were because it seemed like they were just doing them to satisfy the competitive market. But the game's design wasn't focused on creating the funnest game, at least in the first one. Like, the second one's improving on that. But the first goal, first and foremost, was to allow an immersive game where you felt like you were in the Star Wars universe. And if you got the game for that alone, you got your money's worth. Because when I played on Hoth, I felt like I was in the Battle of Hoth. When I played on Endor, I felt like I was fighting on Endor. Like, it wasn't one of those things where it's like, oh, it's cool to see this map in the game. This wasn't a map in the game, it was the actual planet. And it worked. But Destiny, I just don't think knows what it wants to be. I don't think it knows whether it wants to be a shooter, an MMO, or anything like that. And I think that's the biggest thing that holds the game back. You know, everything about it, it's cool, but nothing goes above and beyond. I wouldn't mind the shooting or even the generic story if it had a lot of cool MMO elements like player trade and in-game economies and all that. I wouldn't mind the lack of all that if the story was like one of the most interesting narratives I saw in my life. And I wouldn't even mind either of those if the gameplay did a lot of cool innovation. But none of it does. And that's the issue. It's kind of what IGN says. When you're even what Fabian said, and it's my whole argument with Halo 5. Where when you design a game to satisfy pretty much everyone, in the end, you don't completely satisfy anyone. And that is the truth. Because the only people who realistically like this game, well, there's two groups. The Bungie fanboys and the people who just want a versatile game to waste time on that's good socially. Because that is the thing. Destiny, I think, was a shadow of the game, but the reason it succeeded as well as it did was because its community was so big and it was a place you wanted to be part of. And even I had that feeling. I wanted to immerse myself. I wanted to pretend I was like some private mercenary when I played as my hunter, or like this epic veteran warrior when I was a Titan or something. I wanted to create my own stories out of this world, but you can't. At least not unless you're insanely imaginative, because the game doesn't feel like it allows that, and that's something I'm afraid is going to happen again. I think the multiplayer will be fun in the game, even though I am a little upset they're only doing 4v4 stuff. Like, really? Really? Like, that's all you got? But my point, though, is that the game, I don't think it'll be bad. I think it'll actually be good in a lot of ways. I definitely think it'll be better than the first one. But I don't think it's the game that we've been waiting for on the end of Destiny. Someday, I hope we will get the Destiny game that we rightfully wanted and deserved. But sadly, I don't feel like Destiny 2 is that game. But who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe everything I'm saying will be just complete and utter crap, and the game will frickin' revolutionize the way we play video games. And to people who think that, I hope you're right. I really do. But if you come in feeling like deep down it really is just a Destiny 1.5, then please don't go in denial of it. Accept it. Because that is mostly what it is. It is what it is. And, you know, I'm hopeful for Destiny. Because I want the world to succeed. because what Bungie crafted for us, they crafted the Halo series before it that made my childhood, that forged my childhood. And I want Destiny to do that for others. Because like I said, what Halo did so good was immerse me in a world that I wanted to be part of, and immersed me in a game that I never wanted to stop playing. And all I want for Bungie in the future, and what I want for Destiny, is for that kind of feeling to happen to me again. Till next time.